there's a certain group of teachers and English teachers in Thailand who are just miserable freaks, where there was this cabal of English teachers in Thailand who just decided that they hated me. Their defense was, we don't owe the company, we owe Bruce personally. We have to go back and sue them again under my personal name.
Hey folks, Pete here from Thairish Times. I hope you're enjoying your Christmas New Year period. All the best for 2023 from myself and Noon. But that's not why you're here. You're here for a story, and I have a story for you today, all right? Today we're going to talk to Bruce, who is a highly successful entrepreneur in education in Thailand. Now, Bruce founded TEFL International, which was an organization that would bring people to different countries where they would do a course called a TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language, and then they would get jobs being teachers, all right? And what made Bruce different back in the day was people would travel to another country. For example, you'd travel to Thailand, you'd do the course in Thailand, then you start teaching in Thailand. You could also go to other countries. Bruce expanded this out, I think, to 34 or 35 other countries. Okay. He's moved on from that now. He's doing other businesses, but it's still focused on education. Now, like anything in life, folks, if you're successful, you're going to have haters and criticism. And Bruce has certainly faced a lot of flack online, which he addresses in this video. He gives his opinion on what he thinks of the people that were trolling him online. And that's the bare intro. I'm not going to go too much into it. I don't want to spoil it, but we're going to get into Bruce's life as well in Thailand, and his life and his opinions about the country and what makes him happy in Thailand. So without further ado, let's get into it. I said it again, without further ado. Give up. All right, let's do it. I've got all the questions here, right? So let's get straight into it, Bruce, right? So what I'd really like to know, well, I'd like to know a lot of things, but we'll start at the very beginning, right? 1984, you moved to Hong Kong. Tell us about that story, like coming from America to Hong Kong as a young man. What brought you over there?
I went over there initially to study Chinese. And so that was an interesting journey. And I'd never been, as an American, I'd been to like cross the border into Canada, and I'd crossed the border into Mexico, but I'd never been outside of, the North America. So going to Hong Kong was quite an experience for me as a 20-year-old kid. Yeah.
And what did you do over there in Hong Kong? Were you working there? Like, tell us about that.
When I graduated from university in 1988, I started working extensively in China. Because I had this background in Chinese languages and Chinese history as part of my bachelor's degree. And I wasn't living there at the time, but I would travel back and forth to China a lot. I was living in the States and going back and forth a lot. And then in 1990, the company I was working for had a business dispute in China, and I had written the contract, and the contract called for binding dispute resolution through in Hong Kong. So I flew to Hong Kong, and I was there for like 6 months trying to go through arbitration to resolve this business dispute. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't small. The total amount of money was like $7 million. And eventually our company went out of business because we didn't have money to survive. So I was in Hong Kong trying to resolve this dispute, and suddenly I was unemployed and didn't have any income. So that was a shock, obviously. But a friend of mine said, by that time I already had my master's degree and my MBA. So a friend of mine said, you have an MBA, you can make like $60 an hour, $70 an hour teaching English. This was even in 1990, 1991. I'm like, wow, well, okay. I've never taught English before. Had no experience in education, but I thought, well, I'd like to buy food and pay rent and actually be able to live, so I think I'll start teaching English. And so I started teaching.
And what was the business before teaching that brought you into Hong Kong?
I negotiated joint ventures and sold industrial equipment to government-owned corporations in China.
So you started English teaching in Hong Kong in the early 90s, but that led you into opening up other businesses, right? You weren't just a teacher. You became an owner of different language schools or tutoring schools. Is that right?
So I started out teaching, and I was actually making pretty good money. Like even teaching one-on-one English lessons to business executives and students isn't necessarily it's sometimes inconsistent. People cancel a lot, they have holidays, things like that, but generally I was doing pretty well. You're making like minimum $40 an hour, maximum $70 an hour. You don't have to work that many hours to be able to survive. So I was doing fine. And then I went on my first holiday for like 2.5 weeks, and I realized when I'm not working, I'm making nothing. There's no holiday pay, there's no bonuses, there's nothing. It's like when I stopped working, I didn't make any income. So I thought, okay, well, maybe it would be a good idea to open up some language schools. So I started opening up language schools in Hong Kong and opened up 6 language schools. And during that time, I ended up getting married to a Thai Chinese woman who was living and working in Hong Kong, but had been raised in Thailand. And so we kind of realized that Hong Kong wasn't going to be a long-term home. International school, even back then, was like 25,000 US dollars a year. It was, and you couldn't send your kids to local schools. They weren't accepted there. So we thought, okay, let's move to Thailand. And I'd been to Thailand a few times by then, and I loved it, of course. So we decided to move to Hong Kong. We moved to Hong Kong in 1996, and I gave over most of the management to my language schools to other people who had been working for me already, and I just kind of oversaw it. And I decided I was going to do something similar in Thailand. I decided I was going to like open up language schools and send teachers to schools in Thailand. And I realized quite quickly that the caliber of English teachers was radically different and the motivation for English teachers was radically different in Thailand than it was in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, you're making a lot of money. People pay you very well. So you're very serious about your job. And in Thailand, when I got here, people were like, I just came here to party. I just came here to have a good time. I'm not really serious about my job. I'm just doing this to earn some money. And so and there weren't very many trained teachers or professional qualified teachers. So almost on a whim, I started a TEFL training course. And I partnered with, it was a Trinity College London based in, oh no, where's it based? Coventry Technical College. So I started running a TEFL certificate course, Trinity-based course, partnered with Coventry Technical College. And we did that for a couple of years. And I thought it was just a small thing. I thought it was just there to recruit enough teachers to help the schools in Hong Kong and then to do some side work here in Thailand. But it just exploded. And then I left the Trinity affiliation in 2000. And my first course was in 1998. And between 1998 and 2008, we went from one single school in a small fishing village in Thailand called Banpei to 35 schools in 25 countries around the world. So we really exploded.
Talk about that explosion, right? So you started, because whenever I Google your name, Banpei comes up as kind of like the number one place. Like it's very much connected to your name on the internet. But I also knew that you grew it out worldwide. So tell us, how did you go from Thailand to 34 or 35 other countries?
2 things happened simultaneously. First of all, the internet appeared. And I don't know if you were familiar with Dave's ESL Cafe.
Yeah, old school website. Yeah, very old school.
Yeah. He was the first big English ESL website, and I was his first advertiser. And that gave us, and the way that TEFL courses were run in the past, before me, I think you can say before me, is that you decided you wanted to teach overseas. You went down to your local college, or you found a local course provider in wherever you lived. You took the course, and then you flew to Spain, or you flew to Thailand, or you flew to China, or wherever you wanted to work. And then you got a job when you got there. But I was the I think I can accurately say that I'm the first one who flipped it on its head and said, instead of spending, your next 4 weeks in Chicago or London, why don't you spend the next 4 weeks in Thailand? And then when you come here, you'll already have a month of familiarity with the culture and the environment. You'll be able to actually walk into schools and interview instead of just, sending them a resume online. You'll be much better suited to getting that job in the country that you want, and it's going to be more fun. And before me, the people who ran these TEFL courses had really strict requirements. Oh, you have to come in for these face-to-face interviews first, and we didn't do that. We said, show up. If you fail, you fail, but come to Thailand, and then you can take the course. And that simply, those two things, the ability to promote ourselves with Dave's ESL Cafe, and a unique, I guess you could say, a unique product, a unique way to study a course, just allowed us to explode. And it's funny because I left Trinity, and actually in my first 2 years, we became the fifth largest certificate course provider of Trinity College London. But within a couple of years, we were bigger than all of Trinity because we were offering this unique thing. In fact, when I went to offer the course in the first place, Trinity said, that'll never work. People have tried to run the course in Thailand before. It failed miserably. But the key was we had that advertising. We had that opportunity to get our course in front of a lot of people, because we were like on Dave's ESL Cafe main page. We were on Dave's ESL Cafe jobs page. Everyone saw us. So, those were the two things. And, obviously a lot of it's just luck, just good timing.
Yeah, because I was about to say, so you would have got great timing, but would I be right to say that the bubble might have burst around maybe 2007, 8, 9? Because I know around that time I came to Thailand in 2010, and I know when I was doing a lot of research, you could do a TEFL course online then, and that would save you money as a young, 20-something-year-old. I'm watching the pennies, and if I could come to Thailand with the TEFL already done for half the cost or a quarter of the cost or whatever it is, than actually going there and doing a 4-week course, I would have done that.
Three things really, really damaged TEFL International badly. For one thing, the financial crisis of 2008 means that people had less money. Secondly, during that time that we were exploding, 2006, 2007, times like that, people were literally taking our course, borrowing our materials, flying to another location, and opening up their own course. So it went from having 3 course providers in the very beginning. I think it was us, Text and Talk, and the Celta that was down at Siam. Where was it? Celta that was at in British Council, maybe. I don't remember. There were 3 courses to suddenly there were like 25 courses. They were everywhere. And as you mentioned correctly, all the online courses came online, and you could get a course for $100 or $200, and I, being stupid at the time, wanted to keep the full face-to-face course because, okay, everybody admits they're better. Yeah, they're better, but I wanted to be a purist and keep the quality course and not have an online course that competed against myself that was so much cheaper. And that all those 3 things took TEFL International from huge to running like we had like 3,000 or 4,000 people who take our course a year to just a fraction of that. Like maybe we went down from 2008 to 2010 or 11. Our number of courses went down significantly from 35 to maybe about 15, and the courses were no longer running at 12 and 15 per students per course, but like 5 to 7 students per course.
So Bruce, what did you do then? Because you come across as being a guy that would be able to reinvent himself. So what was the next step, at that period of your life in business?
Well, around that time, around 2012, I just had this idea that there were so many students who came to Thailand who didn't have a degree. They were coming to Thailand to get a certificate course, or they already had a certificate course, but they didn't have a degree. So I tried desperately for years to get a university to partner with me to run a bachelor's degree in TESOL. And after a few years of beating my head against the wall, I finally found one school to do it. And I know they thought it was just a joke. I know they thought it was just, oh, there's this funny falang who's going to run this course. And, we started out with 16 students. But
sorry, Bruce, just to clarify, we're talking, because I've heard about this course as well. I think when I was in Bangkok, a lot of people were talking about this course, and your name was well known, especially if you were teaching.
Yeah,
we're talking about, this was like a degree course for foreigners who didn't have a degree, and that would allow them to get a work permit and stay in Thailand long term. Is that what we're talking about?
yes. I started working with a small college called Tongsuk College, and we started out with 16 students as our first group, our first batch. And yeah, it was a bachelor's degree student that was non-traditionally scheduled, so that we had a lot of classes during traditional school breaks in Thailand, and then you could also come on weekends, so you could kind of combine the two. Like, you might take 2 or 3 intensive courses during your breaks in April, May, or in October, and then you could also take some courses throughout the year on weekends. And so it was specifically targeting people who were living in Thailand, who didn't have a degree, who might have been, doing border runs or something like that. But this was something that could legitimately give them the qualification that would allow them to get a work permit, at the end of the tunnel, at the end of that, 4-year degree program. And of course, during that time, they'd also get an education visa, which, solved a lot of problems for them as well.
And is that course still going?
Okay, so Tongsuk College. Okay, the problem that I've had is that I worked with private colleges for my first 2 colleges. And as you can probably imagine, ultimately a private college cares about how much money they make. So as I mentioned, Tongsuk thought I was just a funny little foreigner trying to do something. They didn't take me seriously at all. They put me in an office. They didn't give me any support, nothing. They just said, okay, go run your course. It's fine. And we went from 16 students to 100 students to 150 students to 200 students. And then they started thinking, wow, this falang's making too much money. We don't want that to happen. We want to make most of the money. There's something wrong here. So they kicked me out. First they renegotiated in air quotes the contract, and said, well, we're not going to pay you anymore until you agree to change the terms.
That's crazy.
So for like 5 months, they stopped paying me, which meant I didn't have any money to pay teachers or anything like that. Everything was coming out of my own pocket. So finally, I agreed to renegotiate, and then finally we split, and I moved to another college, Tongsuk College, and Siam Technology College, and the same thing happened there. We went from 60 students to 700 students, and we were doing very well. But again, in the end, they just thought that by kicking me out, they'd get a larger percentage of the revenue. I thought STC would be smarter, because they saw that after I left, Tongsuk went from 270 students to, the last time I checked, they might have had 50 students. They were kind of bragging to me that they had 50 students, but I don't know if they really had 50 students. Maybe they had less than that. I thought STC would be a little bit brighter and say, well, we saw what happened with Tongsuk when they kicked Bruce out. Maybe we should keep him and his management team here. But they kicked me out, and I've heard rumors, unsubstantiated rumors, that their numbers are way down, that they're actually closing their international programs now. But I've gone on to another college, which is RMUTR, and it's a government college. They don't care that much about revenues. They don't care about much about they care more about face. They care more about how they are perceived in the community. So they like having this international program. I think we have about 300 students now, building back up to something that's a little bit, that's a nice number for us. We're doing fine.
Bruce, do you find it difficult to do business in Thailand? Because it sounds like you've had, a successful thing going at that university, and all of a sudden, I mean, like you said, like renegotiate the terms because you're making some money now. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're growing a business, then you get kicked out. Same thing happens in the next place. Like, must be really frustrating and difficult.
It is. I will just say this: STC. I think I can say this without being sued for defamation, because they admitted in many court documents that they owed me many millions of baht. They still do. We just finished a court case because they didn't pay me when I left. They hadn't paid me for like 7 or 8 months. And their defense was, we don't owe the company, we owe Bruce personally. And so now we have to go back and sue them again under my personal name. But they said in court many times that they owed me money. The numbers that we came up with in court was over 6 million baht. And that's not including nearly 3 years of interest, because they owe me money from mid 2019. And people have said that same thing to me many times, what you've said, like, why do you keep going through this? Well, I was at STC for 4 years, and I did very well for 3.5 years. So do you give up the very well for 3.5 years because you're afraid of the bad ending? I'm fine with it. I guess I'm resilient. It doesn't bother me that much. I don't take these things. I don't get that angry or frustrated. I just move on to the next thing. Not that I'm giving up on the 7 million baht that they owe me. No, they will pay me. I don't care how many times I have to go to court, how many times I have to chase them down. They will pay me, but I don't, it's not something that keeps me up at night. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Bruce, when you Google your name, right, there's a lot of stuff that comes up online, and I mean, there's a lot of, like, you find some stuff. I mean, I did a big deep dive into you, and you can go back and back and back, and like your whole history is there online. I mean, it's no secret, and even you're commenting on it as well, so it's there. You take a lot of flack online, right? But you also, to be fair, you also have a lot of supporters, and there are a lot of people have come out, and some people were claiming that what you're running was a scam. Some people said that, people that obviously, a couple of teachers, even the comments were deleted by certain people, and you would even reply to comments. But you also had a lot of supporters. People came online saying that, like, I worked with Bruce for 10 years. He's an honest, decent businessman. It was backed up by more people. There was a lot more people backing you up than there was people that were trolling you. And look, you're a public figure. There's a lot of people. It's easy for someone to write online about anybody, But when I was reading it, it's just like, it's a lot of flack to take. And in the nature of your game, sometimes foreign teachers, they can be great, but they can also be hard to deal with. And you look like online, it looked like you met some people that were quite hard to deal with. And so how does it feel? Like, what do you attribute to like all this online abuse? Like, where did it come from?
Well, whenever people come at me and attack me, I say, tell me one specific instance, just one, where I have cheated anyone or lied to anyone. And I want specifics. I want exactly what was done, exactly what was said, and to an exact person. I don't want some crazy generalities. Oh, well, everyone knows that you're a scam artist. No, tell me one person that I've cheated. Now, okay, I've been in the education business since the early 1990s. So, of course, I've interacted with a lot of people, and sometimes you have business disputes. There's no question about that. But honestly, no one's ever been able to come to me and say, you cheated this one person. Okay, we've had over 30,000 people take our certificate course over the years. Okay, that's a lot of people. So are there some people who are unhappy? Certainly. But I can't, if it was something that I did and I felt guilty about it, I'd feel worse. And I would say that, back in the 2005, 6, 7, 8 years when people were really coming at me hard. And that's when most of the complaints you'll see about me are from like 2007, where there was this cabal of English teachers in Thailand who just decided that they hated me. And most of them had never met me, but they just decided that they hated me. And why? Because, there's a certain group of teachers, English teachers in Thailand, who are just miserable freaks. I mean, it's not a large percentage, but there is a percentage of English teachers here who are just miserable people, and they don't like anyone else being successful. They don't like anyone else being happy. They want to bring everyone down to their level. And that's the only thing I can think of, because again, most of the people, the cabal who were attacking me in 2007 had never met me, had never interacted with me.
How do you feel about the English teaching as a profession in Thailand? Just from my own perspective, my own experiences with it, I've met some great people teaching, and some very professional people who take the job seriously and are great role models for the kids, and just wonderful people. But I've also met a lot of really shady, dodgy people that I would not trust to teach. If I had kids, I wouldn't trust them to teach my kids. They certainly weren't professional. And it often just made me wonder, how could we possibly improve English teaching in Thailand?
So, I think compensation is a big problem. People who will take some of these low-paying jobs are the people who are taking those jobs as a last resort. they're not taking them because they have 20 other job offers that pay a lot of money. They're just taking that job because, oh, it's a job that can pay me something and I can make some money and survive. I've always had this theory that, there's a certain percentage of people who come to Thailand as a last resort, like 10% of the English teachers or something like that. They had nothing back home. They didn't have a girlfriend. They didn't have a good job. They didn't have any friends. And so they just come to Thailand because it's cheap. They can probably find some girl to be their girlfriend, and they can get a job teaching English, and it's their life. They can have a comfortable life. They're still miserable. That's the problem. They think they can come here and they won't be miserable anymore, but they're still miserable. And I think that's the main problem that we have here.
My next question was going to be, so it's a form of escapism. I do kind of feel that some people do escape, run away from past lives and stuff like that. How do you feel about it?
That's exactly how I feel. There's some certain percentage, and I don't know what percentage that is. It's somewhere between 10 and 70% that just come here as a last resort and to get out from their miserable life. And so that's why you have that problem. There's one of the people who attacked me for years online, let me tell you his story. He barely passed our course in Banpei, and he got a job at a school that was kind of local. It wasn't too far away from Banpei, but it wasn't in Banpei, but it was close. And he started going to the local bar. And this was right when phone cameras first came out. And he was showing people in the bar upskirt pictures of girls, like that he'd taken with his phone. And I didn't hear about it because I wasn't really involved in the day-to-day operations of Banpei. But eventually that came up to me. Oh my God, what should we do? And I said, well, the obvious thing you have to do is tell the school he's a danger in the classroom.
Oh, yeah.
If he's taking pictures of girls, upskirt pictures of girls with his phone camera, he's a danger in the classroom. You have to tell the school. So the school was informed. He was fired. And then, he made all these crazy accusations. Sorry. Oh, I've been on Bruce's Wi-Fi, his server, and I found his child porn. Like, I'm never even at the school. I wasn't on the server, so I don't know what you're talking about. But, those are the kind of people who really caused me a lot of problems. And I didn't know him, and he didn't really, I can understand his gripe with us, but I certainly don't agree with it. I mean, I think we made the right choice. We told the school, and unfortunately he suffered those negative consequences. But those negative consequences weren't the result of us. They were the result of his actions, but we were the convenient scapegoat.
Now, where's this guy now?
I have no idea. All I remember is this was like in 2005, 2006. All I remember is that everyone called him Crazy Mike, and he walked around with a backpack with a teddy bear on it. I mean, that's all I remember of him, because I wasn't really involved in the day-to-day of the school. Dave Hopkins and G, the Thai teacher G, they were involved in the day-to-day, and I didn't even hardly go there.
That's brilliant. Right. Okay. So let's move on. Let's move on to your life in Thailand. All right. So,
Sure.
what is it about Thailand for you? Like, why do you love the country, or do you love the country?
I do. Having lived in Hong Kong for many years and now Thailand for over 20 years, like I've lived basically my entire adult life in Asia, Southeast Asia, and I kind of feel like I'm just as much Asian as I am American now. I feel very comfortable here. I feel, the people are obviously very friendly. But I like the weather. I'm accustomed to it here. I have two kids who live here. My third kid did live here, but moved back to America. It's more home here than America is now.
Are you living in Bangkok, or you don't have to say exactly where you are if you don't
Yeah.
want to tell, but you can give maybe the general area where you're staying?
Sure. I live in Bangkok. I was living in Banpei, as you know, for many years. When I got divorced, I gave everything to my ex-wife and I moved to Bangkok, and I bought a condo here, and I've just been living in this little 57 square meter condo in Bangkok, and it's fine for me. I travel a lot. I've always traveled a lot. So this is my home base.
You're happy there?
Yeah, sure. I like it. So I'm sure you've seen the same thing as me. You've seen the same thing as me. It's like foreigners in Thailand or any foreign country, they get to a point where everything frustrates them and angers them. There's this point, it might be 6 months in, it might be 2 years in, it might be 5 years in, where they just get angry at everything and everything's just annoying them. And if they can get over that hump, then they can acclimate and live here long term. But if they can't get over that hump, if they just stay angry at things that don't work the same way they do back home, then they need to go. And so I overcame that hump long ago.
For me, it's kind of like the first year would have been like, wow, everything's different. Look how different it is. Then you kind of get used to it, and then you see it from different perspective. And there is a kind of a period where you're like, you compare. So for me, I was comparing Ireland and Thailand, and I remember I had this kind of moment where I was like, you know what? I shouldn't be comparing. Like, it's different. It's just different. Why compare? And I remember that letting that go allowed me to just enjoy my time in Thailand. But some people couldn't let that go. I know plenty of people that couldn't, and some people became bitter, and then they left.
Yep. Yeah.
Some people became bitter and they stayed.
Because they had no other choice. And the problem I see is that there's still people who think they can change it here. Like, you're not going to change it, and it's not your place to change it. You're just a guest here. Like, they do things a certain way here, and you just accept it. And you're not, by yelling and screaming, you're not going to change everyone's mind and get them to agree to what you want them to do. Just get over yourself, go with the flow, because you live in another country, and that's the way it is.
I think that's probably like a kind of a Western kind of the idea that the West has had, like, culturally over the years. Like, we always try and go in somewhere new and change it to the way we want it to be. I think that's deep cultural thing with the West, which I don't agree with at all. But anyway, right, strengths and weaknesses of a businessman. I'd love to know, as an entrepreneur, what are your strengths? What has made you who you are? And also, if you want to, like, what are the weaknesses? We all have them.
I have plenty. My strength is definitely coming up with a new concept and making it work. And I've done this, in many iterations, both with the TEFL, with the English schools in Hong Kong. I ran them in a non-traditional way, with the TEFL certificate course, with the bachelor's degree programs, and now I'm running other bachelor's degree programs that are also non-traditional, that partner with hotels and things like that, that are like work and study programs. So that's definitely my forte. My skill set is coming up with a new kind of way of studying. And it's a non-traditional approach. And I can get all the pieces to work. And then I have to give it to other people to manage, because I'm like the worst manager in the world. I'm not a good manager. I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm lucky that I'm smart enough to realize my incredible weaknesses at managing things, because I can't follow through on things. I'm not detail oriented. I'm a big picture guy. So I also get bored. Like, once a project is running and successful, I'm ready to move on to the next thing. I'm not interested in going back and, maintaining that. Unless I can do something to make it bigger and better and more interesting.
So you're kind of like I suppose, an innovator at heart. Are you creative as a person?
I mean, artistically, absolutely not. But business wise, I think I can say that, I've done some very non-traditional things in the education sphere that have proven to be successful, and a few that have proven to be not so successful.
What do you do in your free time, Bruce? Any hobbies, interesting hobbies, like a day off, you're not working, what are you doing?
Oh, I usually travel. I travel a lot. And, before COVID, I was traveling internationally about once a month. Since COVID, after COVID, during COVID, I was traveling around Thailand a lot. I watched a lot of random YouTubes. I mean, really random, like anything you can possibly imagine. I watch on YouTube from, from thorium nuclear reactors to the newest, the latest news or political events and things like that. I watch lots of YouTube, but yeah, travel a lot. And then I think I mentioned to you before, like, I just randomly decided to take a motorcycle tour of the Philippines. I like classic cars. I have 5 classic cars and 1 classic motorcycle. I'm not really a mechanic. I'm not really that much of a car guy, but I just like them.
And you started a YouTube channel as well while you were in the Philippines, is that right?
Yeah, so I randomly decided to do this motorcycle trip in the Philippines. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to go through all the trouble of traveling through the entire country of the Philippines by motorcycle, I should probably at least have some historical record of it. Makes sense. And so I decided to make a YouTube channel. And people ask me, like friends and family, like, who's going to watch your YouTube channel? I have no idea. Probably no one. It doesn't matter. I'm not doing it for any other reason than just because it seems like I should do create some kind of historical record. But oddly enough, I have like 2,700 subscribers, and about some of my videos have 4,000, 6,000 views. I don't know who they are. And it's weird too, because some of my videos will have like 6,000 views, and others of them will have 50 views. Why? I don't know. I mean, it has to be some weird YouTube algorithm thing. I have one video that has like 20,000 views. I don't, it's weird. And then others,
It's a
nobody
crazy
watches.
animal, Bruce. We don't know. We think we know. I mean, I really want to get into the. If I could ever get into YouTube and track someone down and interview them, I'd love to do that. But anyway, right? Okay, Bruce. Any regrets in life? Anything you'd have done differently if you could go back and change anything? Would you do it, or no? Or do you have no regrets?
I think my main regrets in life are not doing things instead of doing things. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
And like, if I thought back on my entire life, on everything I regretted, I'll tell you that they won't make any sense to you because they were such a long time ago. But I used to be kind of a professional singer and like do weddings and things like that. And one person came to the wedding that I went to and said, "Oh, I know an agent in California. You should like submit your demo to them and I'll send it to them." And I think you can like become a singer, and I never did it. And I'm like, I don't, how do I say it? It's not that I regret not, it's not like I have some great desire to become the next, George Michael or something like that. But I regret not doing it. It's something I should have done. It was an opportunity for me. Another time when I was in university, I had friends who were playing on the American football team at my university, and they wanted me to try out. They're like, come try out, you should try out. And I didn't do it. It's like, those are the things I regret more than the things that I've done. I don't really have many regrets on things I've done, because I always just tried to do my best. And as I mentioned earlier, I can't think of any person that I've ever cheated or lied to. So I don't have those regrets. Did things not work out? Oh yeah, the online music school, I lost a ridiculous amount of money on that. I mean, there are things that I've done that haven't been successful, but I don't regret them, because at least I tried, I mean, I gave it a shot. I'd rather have given it a shot and failed miserably than, not tried.
Brilliant, brilliant. So the last one, Bruce, right? So Thailand it's the home of interesting people, characters. The foreigners that go there, characters. The Thai people themselves, absolute characters, hilariously funny, very, very silly, kind. There's stories. There's so many stories. Do you have any stories of interesting people that you've met over the years, be them foreigner or a Thai person over there?
Oh, I've met a lot of interesting people. I mean, there's one guy, I don't know if he's going to appreciate me talking about him, but Carl Flanagan was an English teacher in Rayong at ABAC, and now he's the bass player for a punk band. um, there's a lot of people who've been successful, who've done a lot of interesting things. Yeah, and I've been friends with some really cool and nice people. Although, the problem I think that we all have is that people are always coming and going, and people don't necessarily stick around, here forever. I've been here for 26 years. I don't know many people, or only a handful of people who've been here for as long as I have. So, some people that I knew, like there's a guy named Paul Owen who had a website called Stickman. You may have run across Stickman website
Yeah.
back in the day.
That's very well known.
Yeah, and he was here for like 6 or 7 years, and then he went back to New Zealand. He was a good guy, hung around with him a lot, or not a lot, but sometimes. And yeah, there's a lot of nice people, a lot of cool people, a lot of interesting people. You're right, there are a lot of characters.
I do. I missed them.
Yeah,
After coming back here, you missed them. There's people are different back in the West, a little bit more serious, and of course, look, they're living their lives, they're doing whatever they want to do. But the expats in Thailand, and even the Thais as well. I mean, like it's just great for my life. It's just been great, and I mean, it's probably the reason why I keep it going. I'm talking to the likes of you. I think when you've been an expat in Asia, especially Thailand or even other parts of Southeast Asia, you do have that common bond with people when you meet them when you're over there. When you come back, you just don't have it's a different feeling. Not saying it's worse, because I do have loads of good friends here as well, but I don't because we haven't shared the same experiences. When you're a foreigner in another country, when you meet other foreigners, there is that, it's just, you can't explain it. It's a tightness there. It never goes.
You're right. But for me, honestly, having been here for such a long time, when I go back to the West, after I'm there for like a week, I'm just ready to come back. I find it a little bit boring, at least maybe where I'm from in America. I'm from Oregon. I usually spend my time around Salem and smaller cities, and there's just not a lot going on. And when you live in Bangkok for 9 years, as I have now, I can, now that COVID is over, I can jump on my motorcycle at 2 a.m. and find a lot of things going on all over the place. A lot of restaurants open and people around, and doesn't matter what time of day or night, what day of the week, there's always something going on.
Well, Bruce, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. If you enjoyed that, folks, please leave a comment, and hit that like button and share the video if you can, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I'll leave a link to Bruce's channel in the description as well. So subscribe. He's got some good stuff over there. Good motorcycle tours in the Philippines. And Bruce, thanks very much, man. Take it easy. I'm gonna end the call right here. Take it easy, buddy.
Sounds good. Have a good
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.